This is Esther Lynn, photographer for MMAfighting.com, sharing some images from my week in Manchester, England for UFC 204. We begin our week with some evening open workouts at the Manchester Arena, where Gegard Mousasi starts us off hitting pads and answering questions with an amusingly honest brevity. When asked where a win over Belfort would put him, Mousasi plainly answered, "Nowhere." Next was Dan Henderson, who didn't work out but only answered questions. The lighting had a bluish cast, and it was a hard, harsh quality. It made the legend's grey hair stand out. Henderson chuckled when asked about Bisping's destiny to become the champion, and said yes, it was Bisping's destiny to win the belt, so Bisping could give it to him. Michael Bisping, the champion, was last, and he put together a lengthy workout for his hometown fans who had been sitting in this cold arena all evening. Bisping demonstrated his boxing, his grappling, and his kickboxing on a stage before answering questions from media and fans. The Count has always been a bit of a heel figure, and despite the many gratitudes he exclaimed to the fans, "I'm from just down the road from Clitheroe." An awkward misspeak stood out to me as he said to the Mancunians, "I'm just like you, but successful." Of course, it's kinder than it sounds, and Bisping then takes the time to meet and take photos with all the fans, including this young boy who watched as whomever was handling the phone fumbled and pointed at me over the barrier. "There's a photographer over there." Smart kid. The next day is media day, where we scrum with the fighters on the card. When Bisping shows, the entire room moves toward him. There's an immense semicircle of cameras rippling out from the Englishman. In the opposite corner from Bisping is Mousasi, who continues chuckling and speaking frankly. Dan Henderson sitting beside Mousasi, looking leaner and happier with his hair shaved down from yesterday. Elsewhere in the room, commentator Brian Stan pulls fighters aside to get broadcast notes to make the commentary more accurate and giving viewers a more complete image of each competitor. Back to Michael Bisping, who still entertained a cloud of media enjoying the attention and inquiry, basking. Never short for words, the face-off had Bisping sending all manner of shit talk towards his opponent he affectionately terms Old Man Henderson, finishing with, "This belt stays here," to which Henderson finally responded beyond his grin, "I know, I get a new one." Bisping laughs, admits he's been bested, and responds, "Good one." The next day, at the official weigh-ins inside the host hotel, Mousasi continued being cheeky at a time most fighters are at their crankiest, as his brother heckled him from the media section. A few hours later, we were at the ceremonial weigh-ins under this beautiful arched roof that used to watch over Manchester Central Railway Station. Hours prior, in the relative privacy of an official weigh-in, Mousasi was almost giddy, but here, in front of the sizable crowd, Mousasi was quiet, unmoved, the complete opposite of most when cheered on by fans. In the main event, both played into the ceremony. Weird to think it would be the last time Dan Henderson would be shirtless, stepping on a scale in front of a crowd of adoring strangers and analyzing acquaintances. The crowd boos Henderson, but it seems all in good fun. Michael Bisping ascends the stage and is fired up. The crowd's shouts invigorate the champ. Bisping's got his finger out, Henderson's wearing his usual smirk, and we've got a rematch, folks. Bisping then gets on the mic and fires off a litany of fucks in every direction. Such anger perhaps promises a rowdy shindig in Manchester Arena the following night. It's fight night. Thousands are gathered here for what's a bit of a savage occasion for a sleepover. We enter the building just after 10 p.m., and the fights get underway at midnight. And what a way to start the night, with the judges' station missing a judge. Between the first and second round, Mark Goddard comes to pick up the scorecard and realizes there's no one sitting there and asks the photographer's octagon side here, "Was there a judge sitting here?" We shake our heads. As the second round is about to begin, a man sits down in the judge's chair with scorecards and a pen in hand. Goddard asks if he watched the first round, and the judge affirms. After the hiccup at the beginning with the first bout, the rest of the night into morning is action-packed and very fast-paced, making the time fly by. It didn't feel like 4 a.m. during Jimmy Manuwa's devastating knockout at Aubin St. Preux. It remained starkly violent, under the bright lights of the octagon. It's loud. The patrons are appeased. By the second round of the co-main event, we know it's late, but it's speeding headlong into day with such skillfully brutal offerings. After the first round, Mousasi is exacting, stalking, and ending the fight with Belfort, as if tired of playing with his food. Arms open as if to ask, is this what we as an audience wanted to see? Is it impressive enough, just in the way Mousasi fights, to earn a mention in the title picture? It's 4:45 a.m. I am watching Hollywood Dan Henderson enter a cage to fight another man for the last time. Henderson's is a saga of meeting the best fighters across the world on so many differing stages. I wonder if he can end his third chapter in the UFC as the middleweight champion. And this man, the first British champion of the UFC, walks out into Manchester Arena with such unwavering conviction toward his first title defense, toward revenge. What enormous pressure to face the man who once brutally knocked you out, now in front of your country, your city, your family. The air in the arena is buzzing and warm. And after a few tentative opening minutes, Dan Henderson lands that famous soaring fist of his right into the left side of Bisping's face, and the champion is down. Hendo's eyes widen and he flies in recklessly and misses the follow-up punch. It echoes across the canvas in the short silence between the cheers and the sudden shocked shouts that accompany a knockdown. But Bisping comes too quickly and battles his way out of what would have been the end of the night for any other fighter. Exhales in relief and persists, forges forward still. In the second, Bisping boxes well, is tagging Hendo consistently when there's an accidental groin kick to which Dan Henderson reacts, but referee Yves Levine doesn't see it. Bisping continues to fight against the stunned Henderson, who I suppose realizes the referee is not going to step in, so he steps back and lands another hard overhand. The danger of this retreating old man. The remaining rounds are close and it's a thrilling affair. Bisping's kicks and punches look crisp, while Dan Henderson saunters backwards, aiming and landing a few more hard right hands. It's 5 a.m. and the crowd is on their feet, chanting, singing. Bisping lands an exactly placed knee, and as the last round is going to end, the 46-year-old Dan Henderson falls out of my frame, and I realize he is rolling at the middleweight champion as his last ever offensive strike in a prize fight. They both raise their arms in victory after the last horn sounds. The crowd applauds their efforts. As the scores are being read, I consider Bisping's tenacity and unwillingness to be finished. Earlier this year in London, he was knocked down by Anderson Silva and yet finished the fight and won. He was similarly marked up after that one. Dan Henderson waits for his arm to be raised. And here Michael Bisping stands, feet away from a man who once destroyed him, now among those who had always supported him. The worker bee of Manchester, he persevered. The arena erupts, and still, the UFC middleweight champion. Brian Stan interviews the champ. I look around and the crowd hasn't left. They listen, they celebrate. By the edge of the cage, Dana White is talking to Dan Henderson, gesturing numbers. When it's Dan Henderson's turn on the mic, he thanks everyone, remains steadfast in his decision to retire, and the crowd begins to chant Hendo. Dan Henderson can add another classic championship bout atop the heap, nearing 50 fights to his name. The list of fighters who've battled Dan Henderson is a chronicle of each major storyline of record in MMA at large. It's 5:30 in the morning, and the fans here in Manchester didn't just file out the doors when they found out their man won. The arena is still on its feet. Bisping raises his belt to the crowd. What an arduous effort in his first title defense. What a gauntlet Bisping had to survive to remain the champion. Mousasi shines in this post-fight format, calling out the champ, questioning the accuracy of the rankings, and to finish, dropping the mic as he had in London. The press applaud as Dan Henderson sits down. "Thank you, I appreciate that," Hendo says. Henderson recounts the battles fondly. It was too bad he couldn't retire on a win. Retire the champion? What a story that would be. Puts down the microphone and exits. We probably could have asked him questions until high noon, but it was time to go. We were informed that Michael Bisping was sent to the hospital to get his wounds checked out, and so it is 7 a.m. when we walk out of the arena. The sky is gray-blue, and every color is rendered in that same soft tone. The sun comes up over Manchester Cathedral. I listen to the distant sounds of a city just stirring, while I walk back in the quiet glow of having watched so closely the setting of a career in such a spirited contest. This is Esther Lynn for MMAfighting.com. Thank you for watching.